Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Actually, like 3 seconds. It's still not blue. Okay,
Yeah,
it's blue. We're good.
I'm going live now.
I am too.
Yep.
Then, should we go back to alternating with the next ones?
I'm going. Yeah, I think so, probably.
Yeah.
Although the next one is going to be like
Mailbag, basically, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess we're probably gonna just give a week because that's gonna fall on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I mean, we could even do like, I don't know, Wednesday or something. It doesn't have to be
Yep.
Thursday
Yeah,
or
we can
Friday.
probably record one in advance if we have time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's that big of a need to always be on the same day with this.
No, probably not.
Because we moved it for Mando. We can move it for whatever we want now.
We do have that power now.
We've opened Pandora's box of podcasting.
That's true.
I thought it'd be better in here.
All right, are you ready to start going? I guess I'll do the brief little explanation for anyone who's new. So, guys, we are recording basically an episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, which is our Star Wars podcast we do. It's linked in the description on both of our channels, but if we don't respond to any of your donations or your comments, that's why. Don't take it personally. There will be time in the future for you to yell at us. With that being said, I think that's it. Before we get started, do anything you want to add, Corey?
No.
Okay.
No. This is just going to be around forever, where anytime you ask me if I want to say or add something, I'm going to tense up inside, and it's going to be awful.
I can't do it at the beginning of the...
Yeah, I know. Like, you wouldn't just shut off your stream to spite me, but I still can't get away from the feeling.
If it were funny enough, I might, but yeah.
It's Justin, I can't help the way I feel.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast on the internet. We have returned for our final Mandalorian discussion episode of the season, which is kind of sad. But yeah, today we'll be talking about Chapter 16 of The Mandalorian, the Season 2 finale. I don't even remember the name. I don't think the name was that important.
The Rescue. It was kind of important.
Kind of important. Anyway, The Rescue, guys. So if you haven't already watched the episode and you've somehow managed to not get spoiled, watch it before you listen to this podcast, because it's just, you just want to do it, especially for this episode. There's some big twists and turns, and we will spoil them within like 3 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to just list all the spoilers as soon as we're done with this warning.
Mm-hmm. Darth Vader robot hand job. Interesting.
That was... No, that was my band name in college.
So yeah, how are you doing, Corey?
I'm good. I watched some Mandalorian today, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit. But then I thought about some Mandalorian today, and I think that's where it all sort of comes together, is the thinking and now talking about Mandalorian. It brings us all together. That's what Mandalorian's all about. That's
why I'm so sad it's over. Because it's like, it's been a guaranteed, high point for every week, which is maybe a little sad, but it's been like something to look forward to every single week.
But Justin, upstairs you have a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah, they don't get it. No, but
have they been watching? Has Kelsey been watching The Mandalorian with you still? Because you got her quick 3-second review after the first one, and Dana's only on the second episode. Like, we've only watched up to the passenger, so I had to pause it this morning while she was getting ready for work because it was right on the title screen, and she came down. So I had to wait for her to leave before I could resume the episode. So
yeah, so she's been watching it. Usually what happens is I'll wake up and watch it at usually like 6 or 5:30. Today was 5:30 because my son decided to wake up early. But I'll usually watch it once or twice myself, and then we'll do the big family watch. And this time, for this episode, the part where the X-Wing is flying up, Kelsey was like, "Is that Yoda?" I was like, there's so many reasons why that's not Yoda. For one, I don't think he can reach the pedals and stuff on an X-Wing.
Is that Dave Filoni?
Less important, he's dead. Yeah, can you imagine if it wasn't
it wasn't Lucas. Dave Filoni's character. Does the exact same shit though.
Yeah, it's just that it's just like in the episode with the bugs. He just sits up on top of his X-wing with his blaster rifle and just slowly shoots the dark troopers.
Yeah. Oh, now the shows we could have had.
I've been thinking about that today. Like, obviously, once they set up the X-wing coming, you know who it is. But they could have fucked with us in so many ways if they'd wanted to. Like
yeah,
so many subversion opportunities. Like, it could have just been like John, the New Republic soldier, or like, yeah,
Corran Horn showing up before the new Rogue Squadron movie, where they're definitely not reintroducing Corran Horn. You know what? I'm not sure on that, but that's a different podcast.
I definitely wouldn't be less disappointed were that the case. But yeah, should we start from the beginning? Should we? I feel like we're going a bit too ahead of ourselves here.
All right, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's the end. So, well, almost the end. We still have to deal with a very thick Twi'lek.
That's true. I forgot he didn't die in
me too.
Return of the Jedi.
I think he's on the sail barge, but I mean, he could have jumped off or whatever. It happened all the time.
I mean, if Boba survived that day, who are we to say anyone else died?
Exactly. Was there any other Star Wars news this week? I mean, we covered most of it last week. I don't think there was a whole lot that was new.
No, there was the tweet we could talk about from Matt Martin. There's not really much to it, but he said he's really excited for the future of Star Wars gaming, or he's never been more excited. And we don't have any announced projects right now, other than unless he was like really looking forward to that Tor expansion that just came out, then like that would imply there's probably something that we're gonna hear about, hopefully within the next little while, or a couple somethings.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it's not just EA making games right now. Because EA's, like, there's been a few things that indicate that all they've got that they're working on is Fallen Order 2. So I don't know exactly how the exclusivity contract works.
Well, they're the exclusive publisher. So they're essentially taking the same role that LucasArts did before, because LucasArts as a company, when they acquired it, wasn't in the best of shape. So functionally, EA is still able to contract out other companies to make the games. It's just so far they've only used their internal development studios. So Motive, Respawn,
but even that exclusivity is over soon from what I remember. I don't think they've fully re-upped the contract or not yet, so we'll have to see how that
even if it does get fully re-upped, EA would still, it seems like what they're planning was to have, even if they're not doing it with their internal studios, they could still contract out other studios. And like Petroglyph has been petitioning EA for years to do Empire War 2, and like they could have agreed to that at any point before. We have no reason to believe they did, but like even though Petroglyph's not owned by EA, despite what a lot of people think, they could have said yes to that. So that was always an option for them, and it seems to be that's the kind of option they're potentially going for more of. And hopefully we'll hear about like 5 Star Wars games soon. That'd be pretty epic.
I think it's possible. I mean, I feel like they must have learned like their lesson about, because there was the idea that there was Star Wars fatigue when Solo didn't do well. Well, for one, I think that's clearly not the case. I just think Solo wasn't a very interesting movie for fans. But I mean, I don't think Star Wars fans will ever be tired of video games, especially where like different games like cover different segments of the fandom. Like I'm in love with Squadrons right now, but that's a very, very niche game, like for very specific Star Wars fans. So you put Squadrons out, you put Jedi Fallen Order 2 out, you're getting some people's money twice, you're getting some people's money once. So yeah,
they got my money twice just for Squadrons.
Yeah, they did.
I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, basically you had to rebuy the game because of an issue at launch, right?
Yeah, I was basically, there was an issue with Steam where a lot of people on the first night weren't able to actually access it, and for streaming a game like that, being able to do it on the first night is kind of important. So I was like, fuck it, I guess I'm buying this on Origin. But I would say like it isn't necessarily just the idea that there was Star Wars fatigue when we were only getting, and we're still only getting, one game every few years, or now every year. Yay. Like the 2010 to 2020 in the game industry was a very different time from how stuff had been between like 2004 to 2010. And the way games were releasing, it was usually fewer games that people were playing for a very long time. So it wasn't just a Star Wars drought. It was pretty much everything. Like people were playing Minecraft, League of Legends, Dota, those kinds of games for the entire decade. And they're still playing those games. But now it seems like companies are starting to make more of the kind of more contained experiences, which is nice. And hopefully Star Wars will start following that trend.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it seems like there were a full slate of games in development across various developers at the acquisition. Some of them, there was the Project Ragtag, I believe, was EA's choice to shut that down. Some of them were shut down by Disney. But yeah,
and there were 5 or 6 that were shut down in a few years before by LucasArts, and it was like when you're talking about this, I feel like a lot of these discussions end up just centering on look who fucked up with Star Wars, and you could point to EA for that or LucasArts, but this was not a thing that was limited to just Star Wars at the time.
That's a good point. I mean, games get half done and canceled all the time, especially when it's for like a big IP like this. But it still hurts.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention,
so just please, if someone, before we do that, if anyone who was involved in the project does have a build of KOTOR 3, however preliminary, you can email that to corysdatapad@gmail.com.
I'll run any exe file you send me.
Yeah, you could just call it Trojan KOTOR 3.exe. I'll run
3 bits?
I'll take that.
Wow, they really streamlined this. Speaking of, though, KOTOR 2 released on mobile today. I'm excited to play through that again. I played through the first one on Android, and it was actually a phenomenal experience. Just like when I was living in Toronto, I'd play it like 20 minutes like on my lunch break at work, and it was great. So if you haven't tried that, it might be worth picking up, especially if you've never played the game before. It's actually a pretty good way to try it for the first time. The only other thing I want to say is I completely forgot there's a Mandalorian book coming out next year as well, a tie-in story with the show, like a full novel. So
I didn't know that.
To see how that turns out. Yeah. We don't know whether I assume it'll be from before the show, but yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah. So should we do like a full breakdown of every episode up to and including the finale, or should we just talk about the finale?
Let's just do finale today.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like we could do a big kind of summary after if you want.
Well, I have the scripts from all of our previous episodes right here. We'll need someone to read for Charlie on the last few, but like we could just reenact it.
Yeah, I'd rather...
This is a scripted show. A lot of people don't realize this. This is all fully scripted. This is the best we could think of with all the notice in the world.
Which makes my Darth Vader hand job joke even worse. Because I didn't have just 30 seconds to think it up. I had weeks, perhaps.
We workshopped a lot of stuff for that. That's why the rest of the show is so bad.
Lando Calrissian sponge bath. No, that won't work.
Or will it?
I mean, yeah, it would. Even at 80 or however old Billy D is. Anyway, let's talk about this episode. Do you want to give your general impressions before we go do a kind of scene by scene or talk about the parts that we want to talk about? I'm sure there's a few sections of the episode that will attract our interest, but what was your general kind of thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I really liked it. I do think it was one of my favorite episodes of the season, but I don't think it is my favorite episode of the season. I think the original Bo-Katan episode is probably going to be in that spot. And I really liked the previous chapter as well, the penultimate one. Yes. But a lot of this episode actually kind of felt like the Tython episode, but better to me. So I almost feel like rewatching the show, I just skipped that one because the stuff that's cool about that one, other than the stuff that is specifically Boba fighting, you kind of get in the action scenes in this one, where it's like fighting some stormtroopers, they're activating the dark troopers, then you fight the dark troopers a bit, the dark troopers do something.
Yeah.
Because that's all there really was in that episode. Like, I feel like I could just hold up a title card that says Boba shows up, and then Grogu gets captured.
I mean, Robert Rodriguez even talked about the fact that Jon Favreau gave him a script that had like, I think he said like 15 minutes of content in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of the reason I think is that episode. There have been a few episodes of the show that have been described as filler, and even though there's a lot that gets done plot wise, that episode to me is almost an example of filler, just because so much of it ends up being almost mindless action.
Yeah, like the episode isn't filler, but the content of the episode is a lot of filler.
Which is why I agree. I prefer this episode a lot over this one. Oh, sorry, over that one. The question for me is with this episode, like, it's almost bittersweet in a way, and not just because of the ending, but because it kind of loses a bit of that kind of small story charm of Mando and Baby Yoda that we have, especially really early on in season 1. And I think it was worth losing it, and I think that could still return. I think they handled most of the tie-ins pretty well.
Yeah.
But I do also kind of wonder what a show is like that doesn't go in this direction of like using so much stuff that we know, and instead kind of keeps that smaller scale Western vibe that we talked a lot about season 1. So that's an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, the episode still was great. I think it was probably I'm gonna say 2 was one of my probably second or third favorite of the season. I don't think it quite beats out the what was the name of that one? The raid episode,
the siege.
The siege, yeah.
When they're going into the base, and I made my bad theory that I both don't want to talk about and do want to talk about, because there are parts of it that like tie into this episode. It's still not a correct theory, but we got like, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean that's coming up very early on in the episode. But yeah, so this is up there though. I mean, I love this. The Luke moment was really incredible for me, and for a lot of people, I think that's probably the most memorable moment. It's not my favorite moment of the show. I really like it, but it's definitely the most memorable moment for me. Like, I'll definitely, when I think back to Mando, the shot where the X-Wing's flying by, and it's like, for me, it was like my brain logically knew what was happening. Like, I was like, obviously that's Luke. I kind of figured watching the episode, like I was kind of waiting for that moment for it to be Luke. But I was also like, the other part of my brain was like trying to rationalize around it. Like, oh, that can't be Luke. Look, there's no red marking on his wings or whatever else. So that was fun.
Yeah, like it was a bittersweet moment for me because like, oh, that's actually really cool. But also there's no way that's not Ezra, or there's no way that's Ezra. So Justin was right.
Yeah, so that is another very important point. So we had a bet going last episode. I don't remember the stakes. It wasn't anything crazy.
I think it was like $20 or something.
Yeah, so we had a bet going for which Jedi would show up. I was pretty confident it would be Luke, but I wasn't. I thought you would be right that it would be Ezra.
Yeah.
I thought that was the good choice, but I thought Luke was the second best. Charlie thought he thought it would either be. Did he say Kyle Katarn as one of them?
He said Kyle Katarn and Cal Kestis. I think one of those was more reasonable than the other, but I would have given him the outside odds on either of it. But it is important, I think. Did you say, if we go back and listen to how it's stated, was it that Luke would show up, or was it that Sebastian Stan would show up as Luke?
I don't know. I did think it would be Sebastian Stan, but I'm not surprised they ended up going for the kind of Rogue One style effect as well. Let's just talk about that now, because that is probably the big, I want to say, controversy about this episode, even though it was pretty much wildly. I haven't seen very many people critical of this episode. I think the one kind of thing people have been talking about is that visual effect. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm in the probably small minority that didn't have it damage even Rogue One for them. Like, I felt like there were a few moments where it was a bit too much in Rogue One, and I don't know how much I like relying on that technology. It is kind of like creepy for other reasons.
Yes, especially with dead actors, I think.
Yeah, like that. There's stuff I don't like from that perspective, but in this instance in particular, I don't feel like it removed anything, especially since this is just like 3 shots of Luke. Get Mark Hamill in there, let him play the character again. Let him kind of do the Luke in his prime thing. And
so I guess it wasn't actually Mark Hamill.
Well, I mean, let him play that. Like, he was doing the dial. I didn't think they actually got him because the build is very different now.
Yeah.
But they let him do the voicing for it. And
I thought the voice was great. I thought they absolutely nailed the voice.
Yeah, like I feel like the one thing that was the best criticism I saw of it was actually Jenny Nicholson saying the problem with it is that, well, it looks fine. You kind of get this, like, it's very limited range, and it's just, there's not much humanity to it in a scene where it's Din giving up custody of Grogu, so it kind of undercuts it, what's going on emotionally. It's like, here, go with the cold monk guy. So
yeah, it's tough. I do, that is a good point that I hadn't really thought of. But it also kind of works for Luke, I think, in that, because he is kind of like trying to be the cold monk guy at that point.
I do think it works for the overall themes of like what the Jedi are in the show as like these detached monks, and Din is giving up Grogu to that. But I can also, like, it wasn't something that I felt while watching it, but when I saw that tweet, I was like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know what the better option is. Like, I've seen some deep faking that's, to me, a bit more impressive than what they've managed
just in the X Crew memes.
Yeah, no, but like, especially if you have somebody who has a very similar face, which is what they do with most of these actors. They do on similar cheekbones and everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how I would feel about just a general recast. I will say, when I first saw Luke, I thought it was Sebastian Stan.
Me too. That's part of why I didn't think it was bad, because like, oh wow, he really does look. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm happy that they didn't let kind of the obvious issue with age and the technical issues get in the way of what was a really cool moment, because it's a TV show for one, and like, I want the most interesting and cool story to be told. Same with Rogue One. Like, that movie is better with Tarkin involved. Like, weird tech ghosts notwithstanding. And I think that's the same for this episode. Like, I mean, having Luke in there, whether Luke looks a bit crazy or not, like, doesn't take away from his action scenes. It doesn't take away from his presence. Doesn't take away from any of that. And I mean, now the stories went in a really interesting way, and a little jankiness that personally didn't bother me at all. And I watched Kelsey's reaction to it; didn't bother her. It's totally worth it for me.
Yeah, like I was actually recently rewatching parts of the Clone Wars, and about halfway through the episode, I was like, "Wait a minute, this is all CGI," and it just ruined it for me.
Yeah, it do be like that. I think that's a kind of a good point too to talk about. We were both a little concerned about the show becoming not the Mando show, and becoming too much of the Mando being around for one. I would have been worried about it becoming the Luke Skywalker show, or the Skywalker show, or whatever else. But I gotta say, I feel like they did it right.
Yeah,
because in the end, it wasn't, Ahsoka or one of the other characters dominating the timeline. It was especially Luke. I think Luke was probably the best use of any non-Mando character, because it really made the most sense, like, from the beginning of like when you knew what the Mando's kind of mission was. Taking Grogu to Luke probably made the most sense out of any option. So I was really glad with how that turned up. The only one that was pushing it for me a little bit was Boba Fett being around the whole time, but he was so kind of unobtrusive and cool that it didn't bother me.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about it becoming the Boba Fett show, and thank God that's not happening. But
yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. I was a little confused about the choice to get Mark Hamill in as the voice actor and then get him to do the Fire Lord Ozai voice, but I think that'll grow on me. But
I watched the entire Avatar show, and I didn't realize it was Mark Hamill until the very last episode.
Yeah, it's easy. Like, he doesn't say much for most of it.
No, it's true.
But like, Mark Hamill's a really good voice actor. He's in a lot of shit, and you can almost never tell. But I kind of came around while I was watching the scene to, because before, when we were talking about who we thought it would be, I was bringing up Ezra because I thought, like, oh, this is a way to tie in their stories together. And well, I still think that with some of the characters that showed up, Ezra would make sense there. I think that Luke was actually the one, even though he's the most prominent character, that could come in and not make it be about Luke, because he doesn't need his story to be told here. He can just come in, grab Grogu, and leave, and you're not really feeling like you're missing anything from it. But if Ezra does that, then it's like, where were you? You want to have an episode explaining how this happened, and then we probably have to have an episode explaining how that happened. So I've come around to the Luke is the right choice for this.
Yeah, and I gotta say too, Luke is also a character who we know very little of what he's doing at this time. Ezra's, I'm sure, is going to be fully fleshed out, but I mean, we actually don't have that many kind of post-OT, pre-sequel trilogy appearances of Luke. Besides, we've got the comics with Kylo Ren, we've got the Battlefront 2 stuff, which this reminded me a lot of. But yeah, I mean, he still got his Chanel boots on and everything. It was good, and yeah, it made sense. Like, it fit the context perfectly. I'm just kind of wondering, like, what would Legends Luke have done in this time period? Like Thrawn trilogy Luke, he would have got his ass kicked by those Dark Troopers, right? Like,
yeah, he would have kind of got his ass handed to him, and he also would have started like flirting with at least one of the characters, and it would have been very unwelcome. And it just would have been a whole thing. We'd do a podcast episode about it. Grogu would die immediately. Like, there is something we need to talk about with that. But yeah, like, Luke had a bunch of apprentices just immediately die. So I know there were some people, one of the biggest takes I've seen is like, oh, well, if Grogu goes with Luke, we know he explodes in like 15 years.
So dumb.
But we don't actually know that. We know the temple explodes. We don't know Grogu's in there when it happens. We actually don't know how many of the trainees die. It does mean, like, okay, where was he during the sequel trilogy? But depending on how Yoda's age, would he actually have been able to be that active? Would any of them have been that active? Where was Kakruk during the Thrawn trilogy? Like, there's always been Jedi off doing Jedi things in weird Jedi ways. Ahsoka was out there at some point. We don't know when she dies. Maybe she's just like grocery shopping, phoning into Kylo and Rey, like, oh yeah, I'm with you too. That's $5.
I'm at the young Jedi Knight Temple.
Yeah,
on Yavin.
Yeah. So there's, just because Grogu goes with Luke now doesn't mean that he stays at the temple forever and becomes a Jedi, or that he's there when it explodes. It doesn't mean that if he's there when it explodes that he dies. I think we see Kylo kill. There's one apprentice that we know Kylo kills. A bunch would probably die in the temple, but they don't all necessarily die.
I mean, I think almost certainly he won't die. I think Star Wars actually has a really interesting opportunity with Grogu
to turn him into a Knight of Ren.
Well, I was going to say where he is this character who's going to live for hundreds of years. If they do decide to move into the future, like, he can be kind of a stable, like, it's kind of the opposite of we're going back now to the High Republic. And, you know, we've got young Yoda as a staple of that era. So that's
a good rap name.
What's that?
That's a good rap name.
Young Yoda?
Young Yoda.
Yeah. So he's almost certainly not, like, he's not going to die from Kylo Ren. I did joke about that in, like, a very early review I did of, like, one of the first episodes of season 1 or season 1, but yeah, he'll be fun. Like, if they don't want him dead, he won't be, and I'm sure they don't want him dead.
Yeah. And, like, he's getting trained by Luke, but that also doesn't mean he's necessarily going to want to stay and become a Jedi. Like, Din and Luke and Ahsoka, they've all kind of agreed that, like, he needs to have some training so he doesn't just blow people up all the time without being able to control it. But who's to say after getting some basic handle on his abilities, much like Ahsoka, he doesn't consider himself a Jedi, and he becomes a Force-sensitive Yoda Mandalorian and travels with Din again. In season 4 of The Mandalorian, we come back from Boba. We have to talk about what that actually is going to end up being. But like we could easily see something like that happen. Training to be a Jedi doesn't mean you necessarily are stuck with that for life. Or training with the Jedi for the Force doesn't mean you get stuck with that for life.
Yeah. I'm curious too whether like how Luke is going to handle the parental relationship. Like, is he going to go kind of classic Jedi route and be like, no, fuck off, like where the temple's your parents now, like no attachments, yada yada yada, or is he gonna realize that's kind of bullshit and just maybe get like one therapist to try to help everybody work through their issues?
It doesn't seem like it ends up going well, whatever he does.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, his therapist was Snoke. That was the problem. Not epic. But let's talk about the actual episode itself. Maybe we'll kind of start from the beginning, talk about some, just I guess anything we wanted to, and then at the end, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about regarding the Boba Fett stuff and
what
season 3 is going to look like, and whether we've got 2 season 3s going on or what.
Yeah.
But I do find it funny that a bunch of people online, including myself, spent all that time looking for the like astro navigational data and like scouring old maps to see where Moff Gideon is, and he's just nowhere. It's just, we don't know. He's just in the middle of space.
Yeah, well, wasn't the whole thing like, oh, he's going to Camino? Was that Star Wars theory, or was that
I
just
think he
mostly...
was saying Nar Shaddaa. There was a lot of people who were saying Camino, and I do still think that's possible. I think maybe he was rendezvousing with the scientist who was coming back from Camino.
Yeah. Because we do get a confirmation here that it's not just the symbol. Pershing is a cloning scientist. And then Kara, or not Kara, and then is it Bo-Katan or is it the other night owl that says, your father, you mean your donor?
Oh yeah, that was Bo-Katan who said that, I think.
Yeah, so cloning, we got donors used as the term for the cloning. I'm vindicated. You're all welcome.
I will say, I kind of like Pershing as a character. Obviously, he's an evil kind of scientist guy, but he's like kind of shown some care for the child twice now. Because in episode 3 of season 1, there's that moment where he's like, "Don't hurt the child," and now he's going out of his way to help the rescue. So he's kind of an interesting character. I don't know what he's got up his sleeve, or I assume he was arrested probably before the end of the episode, but I thought that was interesting.
Is it that, does he really show care for the child, or does he just show, like, what is going to get me the farthest with the person who is pointing a gun at me at the moment?
I don't know. I really did feel like, because in episode 3, he like jumps in front of, he thinks the Mandalorian's coming to assassinate the child. He's like, don't hurt him. And now that could just be for science as well.
Well, it could just be because I'm protecting this guy, and he could also think you're just going to kill me anyways. But
yeah, I just kind of felt like there's a bit more to his character.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
He's not portrayed as being overtly evil, especially compared to like one of the the hey, fuck Alderaan guys we got in this episode.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it, but Pershing actually takes a bit of a laser bolt to the face there. Because when Kara shoots the trooper, he goes down. I thought he was just clutching his ears because of the blaster, but he gets a little scraped by the laser, which I'm sure is not a pleasant experience.
No. No one likes the laser scrapes. He almost got free LASIK.
Yeah, free permanent LASIK. You'll never have to worry about glasses ever again.
I did kind of like how the last 2 episodes have kind of shown that, like, especially post Cinder, a lot of the people who are the people who are still like hardcore Empire, they are hardcore Empire. Like they are the kind of people that if you were starting an ancient Sith cult dedicated to the Imperial leader with the most fanatics, or the most serious fanatics of the New Order, they're the ones who are left.
Yeah, I do like, it kind of reminds me of the Alphabet Squadron stuff too, where it's like, if you don't leave early, you're kind of a scumbag, and by this point, if you haven't left, you're really a scumbag.
Yeah. And even if you're not necessarily wholly on board personally, you really need to play the part, because you're in. No one's going to accept you now if you haven't left already.
Yeah, it's kill or be killed at this point if you ever run into the Empire. And that's the case with the poor lunch guy last episode. He's just standing there with his tray. It's like, this goddamn bullshit on my lunch break, of course. He wasn't even taken out by the shot. He was just pretending.
It'll all be over soon. I can walk away.
They're on some bullshit at lunch again. And then he gets blown up.
It's like that Robot Chicken sketch where they're in the lunch line. I think it's the lunch line, and whenever they're saying like, act like you're getting choked by Vader. No, it's the initiation for new troops. Act like you're getting choked by Vader. Oh, you fall down now. You get dragged off, and then tomorrow Bill shows up.
There's a lot of funny moments like that in Robot Chicken. There's another one where it's like Pondo Baba and Dr. Evazon, and it's like Pondo Baba the whole time is like not trying to make a fight with Luke, but Dr. Evazon's like, he doesn't like him. He's like, I didn't say that. He's like, and he's an architect or whatever.
Yeah.
he gets his drafting arm cut off.
That was good shit.
That's good shit. What planet do you think they were at? Just a random one? I thought at first it might be Concord Dawn, and then it's like, it kind of looks like Lothal though.
That Bo-Katan was on?
Yeah.
So yeah, when they go to get Bo-Katan, I don't know. I wasn't sure. I didn't really. At first, I was like, "Wait, did they go back to Navarro for some reason?" Because it was like
definitely wasn't
kind of
Navarro,
brown, but it was definitely not Navarro. But
yeah,
I guess in that area, that would be kind of close. I feel like if it was in Mandalorian space, they would have made a bigger deal about it. It wouldn't have just been Bo-Katan hanging out at a cantina. So maybe Lothal. That would be interesting. Maybe we'll find out. Someone check Dave Filoni's Twitter, but I don't think it would be Concord Dawn or other Mandalorian planet. Because wasn't
pretty sure Concord Dawn is
it's exploded. Yeah,
yeah. Well,
it's like
partially
the
exploded.
big, yeah.
That was just my thought originally. Especially, I don't know. It had a Concord Dawn feel to me, but yeah, Concord Dawn's been kind of fucked up.
But like, she's definitely gathering Mandalorians together again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If only she had a sword, because that doesn't go as she hopes.
No, it doesn't. It's just like very awkward Seinfeld-like situation in this episode where it's like, I didn't mean to kill him, he attacked me. Or I didn't mean to kill him, he attacked me. What was I supposed to do? It's like, Jerry, you've got the Darksaber.
What am I supposed to do with all these Darksabers? But there can't. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Mine was not that relevant.
Was it another Seinfeld joke?
No.
Oh, okay, never mind then. So yeah, Din and Boba walk into a bar and they find Bo-Katan and one of the previous Night Owls from episode 3, whose name I have never bothered.
Sasha Banks, yeah.
And it turns into a bit of a scuffle because Boba's wearing Mandalorian armor and he's like, I'm actually not a Mandalorian. I don't care. Never claimed to be one.
Boba Fett gets fucking DDT'd. It's beautiful.
I did like the jetpack usage in that fight, where it's like give him the extra thrust, and then that was a fun little digression. But clearly, some maturity in the Mandalorian community needs to be found if they're going to get anywhere.
Well, no one died, which I'd say is probably pretty good for a little scrap. Like maybe a mild concussion. I like how Boba just fucking knocks her through this like stone table. But that was the moment where I was like, this is going to be a good episode. When it reintroduced them, it kept that like cool little musical cue they had from their first episode. Like, I can't do it. But I thought the action in this episode all around was really good. There was another cool moment with the Night Owls when they're like inside the cruiser over that little kind of, it's like a pedway over it's just like a big gap. And they jump off, and then when the stormtroopers come, they jetpack up around. That was really cool. I thought the fight between Gideon and the Mandalorian was really well done, where Gideon's like ferocious at the beginning, but then Mandalorian...
Did he throw it?
Did he throw it? No, I don't.
Did he throw the fight to cause... You don't think he had any thought of like causing that drama between Bo-Katan and Din until it actually happened?
I don't think so. I think that he had planned that as a contingency, but I don't think that was on purpose.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't really accomplish anything because he thought the Dark Troopers would just murder them all anyway. So maybe for his own amusement, but it does seem like a lot to go through for his own amusement.
Mm-hmm. I think he planned on winning that fight.
But Pershing does say they were Gen 3 Dark Troopers, and that the difference from Gen 2 was that there was no human. In Legends, there were, like, Phase 3 were the big bad guys, though 1 and 2 were also droids, so...
Well, it wasn't 2 a suit, and then 1 was a droid, and then 3 was, like, it could be a suit or it could be a droid, I think.
And there's Phase 0, which... It gets kind of inconsistent, which is unique for Star Wars. But
they looked a lot like Phase 1 Dark Troopers.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going for with it.
Me
but
too.
They didn't have the sword, so
yeah,
that's the best part of the sword and shield. I think it is.
But it's like these ones don't have. I mean, not yet. I don't think we've seen the last of the Dark Troopers. I mean, maybe, but we could see them come back with missile pods or whatever else.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. That'd be cool.
I do like that they did explain that, like, no, the dark saber, the power is symbolic. Because one of my notes when Bo-Katan said, "I need that," it was like, I'm going to have a really sharp knife.
Yeah, exactly. I've always found the dark saber to be a bit kind of like that, where like a bit overstated, but
yeah.
It's just a symbol. It's not better than a lightsaber. It's just a black lightsaber, basically.
Yeah, it is very mesmerizing. Gideon was right about that. It is a very pretty lightsaber. I think it's kind of epic, but
no, I agree. Kind of epic for sure. It's got like a different blade to it, which is cool as well. I mean, pretty cool. Not gonna say no if someone offers it to. Well, I don't want to lead Mandalore, so I'd be saying no. But
well, Din tried to say no. You don't get to say no. If you find it, you keep it.
Yeah, I will say, Bo-Katan is on some shit this episode. Like, get off your fucking high horse. Like,
yeah. So, before we get into what I think is coming to the discussion on Bo-Katan and Din, I think we do need to talk about how nice the little hangar entrance for the Architens looked and like the runway.
That was awesome.
I really like that.
Yeah, this episode was just directed exceptionally well, I thought. Like the action scenes were great. There was no like weird hang-ups or anything. I liked the space battle. Like, I'm glad he didn't drop the sizing charge again. Instead, we get to see his cannon swivel around, which is kind of what I was expecting to happen this season. And yeah, that crash I thought was so well done. It's like, just sometimes I gotta like remind myself this is a TV show essentially we're watching, because the special effects are just unreal.
Yeah, like that whole sequence was really good, and then I enjoyed the fights. Even the Din gets his ass beat by a Dark Trooper fight was pretty fun.
Man, yeah,
pulls up the best colonel.
That was kind of terrifying. Nice. Like the one Dark Trooper, I think they did a really good job with the Dark Trooper. Like that one alone was terrifying, just because it's like the single-minded like power. It's just like putting him against the bulkhead and just wailing away. But then for me, the really kind of scary thing is you look over his shoulder and there's like the two just pounding away nonstop at the glass, like trying to break out.
Yeah.
Which is like, we never got that like kind of fear with battle droids, of course.
Yeah.
Like that was the most pants-shitting moment for the Mando, I'd say, where it's like those things there's like he's dying to one and there's like 30 waiting to just fuck him up.
Yeah, like at first I thought the only resolution with that would be if Grogu was gonna just eat them all somewhere. Yeah. So I think Luke makes sense as someone else who could come and just fuck them all up, but without kind of lessening their impact on someone like Dan.
Yeah.
I do think it's it's not the best resolution of having to have arguably the most powerful character in the universe come in, save you from what happens, take Grogu and leave. But I still good enough.
Does kind of maintain that feeling that like Mando's just a part of all these like storylines that have big galactic importance, but he's just like, I'm just trying to get eggs. Like, leave me alone. Like, but we got the call, an afternoon for Luke, and this is like the biggest thing in Mando's life. Looks like I'll swing by and do this on my way to
Lunch with Ahsoka.
Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yeah, lunch with Ahsoka.
Because everyone's saying, like, well, why didn't Din mention to Luke that Ahsoka was there? Because, for one thing, Din wouldn't know which Jedi know each other or not. And at this point, we actually don't necessarily know if Luke has ever come across Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka's almost certainly aware of Luke, even if Luke's not necessarily aware of Ahsoka. So to Din, these are all just space wizards who probably know each other. That's why he's trying to get Grogu with them, because he's like, oh, he's going to be with his kind, and they're all a big group. But that was just something that I saw come up a fair bit, and I think it's fine for Din to not be like, oh, hey, you're like that other Togruta I met.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about that, to be honest. But I guess I can see some people having an issue with that. Doesn't really bother me though.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was really hoping that we'd get three TIE fighters coming out of the. I was just kind of going back over what we talked about. I wish we'd gotten 3 TIE fighters come out of the Architect, then like a defender or something. That would have been cool. But I was like, because there was like a shot where they were slotting them in, and it was like showing each one. I was like, oh man, one of these is gonna be really cool. It's like, nah, just TIE fighters.
Yeah, but you kind of know that Boba's just gonna mess him up immediately. So I'm happy it wasn't a TIE defender.
Yeah.
If we're going to get a live action TIE defender, I'd rather see it in a more high impact situation rather than like immediately dying to Boba as he's on his way out of a scene.
Good point. I mean, Thrawn could still have some for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of an Ahsoka storyline. The show, not the Jedi, but the Jedi as well.
So I guess kind of going chronologically, we're at the point of the Gideon battle, and it was really sad seeing Grogu in those little binders. It's just like, let me out. I don't want to be in here anymore.
These aren't comfy.
But yeah, Gideon's obviously got some sort of information source. I'm wondering if he like somehow spiked the Beskar or something, like because he's like tracking every single move the Mando makes, and
yeah,
that's kind of something that Giancarlo Esposito talked about in an interview he did, where he talked about how Gideon's got all these information sources across the galaxy, and he's got somebody who's helping him, which I think was supposed to be a Thrawn reference. But
yeah,
were you expecting anything Thrawn related in this episode?
No. I'm expecting any of that to come up in like Rangers or Ahsoka, and I think like Gideon's involvement in that would be like, maybe we'll get some interrogation scenes where he's basically Gustavo Fring in custody though.
See, I wouldn't be surprised if if one of the early season episodes of the next full Mando season is him being busted out of New Republic jail or an attack by an Imperial base or by an Imperial fleet or something. That would be cool. But because he's definitely, we haven't seen the last of him, and I want to talk to you about this when we get to our discussion of what season 3 is going to look like, because I've got some theories. I know you've got some theories, but is there anything in the episode you want to kind of mention before we get there?
Well, we still have to talk about Din and Bo-Katan. I think that's kind of the big thing we haven't touched on before getting to the Boba and then also the future of Mando. Is there anything aside from those kind of major topics that you're thinking of?
No, all I will say is I was reading some of the comments on Reddit after the episode came out, and one that just got me was, I thought Bo-Katan just fucking died.
I was like, did she do that?
Which is just really funny. Like, can you imagine if he just killed her like that? Like, but why stop shooting at people in Beskar?
Right?
Like, it's not going to work.
That's why I thought maybe she did die, because like I was thinking as soon as I saw the pistol there, it's like, okay, he's gonna kill someone, and then he shoots Bo-Katan. It's like, so does that mean like he's not that dumb, is he? Is Bo-Katan dead? And it's like, no, he's that dumb. Bo-Katan's dead. And
then I thought, because Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks' character have similar armor, so I was like, oh, maybe it was on my first viewing, I was like, oh, maybe he shot the other person down, but
yeah, like I thought one of them was gonna die. I didn't think it would be Din, but I could have seen any of the other ones dying. I was thinking less Bo-Katan because they need to resolve the Boba or the Bo-Katan Din stuff, and I feel like if they do that, it would kind of cheapen it, especially when they already just had a setup for a potential confrontation between Din and Bo-Katan, where it seemed like Din was willing to go through with that deal with Gideon, unless he was just gonna. He didn't say anything, so he could have just as easily double crossed him later. But and I kind of was looking forward to seeing what that might look like, and then Gideon just tries to fucking bash him, which you don't do. That's dumb.
That had me fully rethinking Gideon's character. Then he was like, "Oh no, just fucking with you." But yeah, I knew when we get back to the bridge and that we're only 20 minutes into the episode, like, yeah, there's still like some shit to happen here. I think Bo-Katan's kind of interesting because she's an ally, but she's obviously very self-interested and very like she cares a little bit about Grogu, but I mean, if it weren't for Gideon being here and the potential of capturing this Architens, then I don't think she goes along. Mando, friendship or not, and like I think she's going to be ruthless. I can see her turning into a bit of a frenemy at some point.
I mean, Bo-Katan has never been an unambiguously good character, except for maybe a few episodes in Rebels.
Oh, no, totally.
She starts off as essentially a villain, and like the good thing she does is try to bring together the Mandalorian clans, and like
she's in Death Watch, like like she's not a peace loving hippie, like
no.
She wants old Mando ways, which is bloody and violent.
Or she did. I don't know if she necessarily still wants the bloody and violent, because like she's very dismissive of Din when she thinks like, oh, you're from the Children of the Watch, whether that's Death Watch or not. And like she does seem to have softened a bit by Rebels. And I'd say like Rebels Bo-Katan was a suitable enough like new Mandalore to bring everyone back together. But it seems like what we're getting more of now is these indications that Bo-Katan is not fit to rule the Mandalorians. And there is someone who doesn't have any interest in doing that, but who now has an understanding not just of Mandalorian life, but life outside the Mandalorians, and has come from the Children of the Watch who need to be part of that Mandalorian fold, but has come around more to the way of thinking that Bo-Katan has. And he's also, believe it or not, in possession of the Darksaber right now, even though he doesn't want it.
I was never huge on I still know how I'd feel about Mando becoming Mandalore. Like, I was never big on that idea, because I just don't know if I was interested in the show heading in that direction. But
yeah, I would say the same thing, but
they did go to their way last episode to show that like he cares about like people. Like, there's that scene where he's watching the children as he drives by in the Juggernaut, and like that's a very kind of, you know, he's a softie, like at the end of the day, especially when it comes to kids. So he could be a kind of a more kind leader, but yeah. Like, I'm not sure whether that's the way the show's gonna go.
Like, Bo-Katan's role could be to accept that she's going to be helpful in bringing together the Mandalorians as she's done before, but she's not necessarily going to be the one to rule them, and she doesn't necessarily get to make that choice. But what did you think about the Elder Wand, Darksaber transfer here?
Well, I think the idea probably is that because the Mandalorians have been so fucked up, I'm assuming that Bo-Katan's not just taking it because the new Mandalore needs to have earned it rightfully, to really unite all these like disparate Mandalorian groups and everything else, compared to like in Rebels where she just gets it from Sabine. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
She was hesitant to take it in Rebels. Like Alex and Molly were just talking about this. She was hesitant to take it in Rebels. And clearly she lost it to Gideon.
Yes. So maybe it didn't work when she got it that way in Rebels. Yeah. Like, it's not like they haven't thought this through. Like, it's not like Dave Filoni or John Favreau's like, they're like, oh shit, we forgot about that scene in Rebels.
Yeah. Like, especially when that's half the topic. It's not like they made literally a quarter of this episode and Dave was just sitting there like, I feel like I've been over this before. Something's coming to mind, but I can't figure out what it is.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, but I don't know. There will be a good explanation. I've got no clue how that's going to work out. just do it through a thumb war. Like, get her done, boys and girls. Like, we don't need to be fighting here.
Yeah, Din during that scene is like, I yield.
Yeah.
I sit here. I don't want to do this. We're busy.
Yeah, well, he probably shouldn't have came in with the fucking Darksaber ignited, just like making a big show out of it. But he should have like given it to Gideon and been like, "Yeah, duel her now."
Yeah, he didn't know though. He was just like, "Oh, look at this fucking cool sword." And their whole their plan, their plan is dumb. Everyone's plan is dumb. Because they're doing this saying like, "Oh, we're going to hide Din. He's going to think they're getting attacked by Bo-Katan because Bo-Katan wants to attack him, and they're never going to suspect Din is here." Then don't send Kara with them.
Yeah.
You know, the one guy that Gideon knows.
Yeah. Good point. I didn't think about that.
It's like, obviously he's going to go to Grogu too, because as soon as he realizes Kara's with them, he knows Kara's with Din. He knows that Din's going for Grogu. Like, obviously he's going to be there.
I thought Kara was going to die this episode.
Me too.
There were like 2 or 3 times where her guns jamming. I was like, oh, she's going to get it. But
she was my lead contender for the Gideon secret shot.
As much as I don't like her actress and the shit she says, I do really like her character, so I'm glad she didn't go down. There have been people who are saying, "Oh, this is the last we'll see of Cara Dune," but I think the chance of that is very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
I think she's probably going to be pretty prominent in Rangers of the New Republic. So, with that being said, is there anything else we should discuss before we move on to the big, thick Fortuna moment, or is there anything else you want to say about the Luke scene? What was your reaction like? Were you emotional? Were you?
I wasn't emotional, but I was like, kind of despite myself, like, oh, this is epic.
Yeah.
Where I like with all the cameos, I've kind of been on this thing of like, part of this is really cool, but part of it is like, is this what the show ought to be? And I do have to say, like, with how kind of nervous I was going into the series or into the season, even though I do think in the middle of the season it did get a little bit too heavily reliant on what the cameo characters were doing.
And
I
setting
think
up other shows.
Yeah. Especially now that we have those shows now, so I'm a bit more okay with it. But I would have preferred maybe the episodes between like Bo-Katan's and Ahsoka's to have a little bit more Din in them, Din and Grogu, than we actually got. But knowing now how it all played out, I think the cameos, if you're going to have them, were handled overall about as well as I could have expected. And like the Luke one in particular was probably the thing that I was, when you brought it up, the least on board for. I probably would have gone like Luke and then Ahsoka, and I think both worked out pretty well. So
yeah, those are the 2 best cameos in my opinion. I think the big complaint about this season that people are going to be talking about in like a year or 2 from now is the fact that a lot of it was set up for other shows.
Yeah,
but for me, I don't have a huge problem with that, especially the other shows start to be good. But yeah, it is what it is. I don't think it was ever overwhelming, but it's the fact that they've got this, like, I don't know if they knew how big the show was going to be, but they've got this absolute monster that's going to be setting up other shows. So I don't think they really had any other option if they do want to do tie-ins.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Grogu will return in Star Wars Assemble.
Yeah, but I'm watching the Luke stuff now, and yeah, I definitely did get a little emotional. Even beside myself, I'm like I'm a 28-year-old man. Like why is this doing things to me? But it's like it's hard to explain. It's like you never think you're gonna see Luke again, kind of like that, especially like after what happened in the sequel trilogy. And I'm not complaining about that necessarily, because I didn't hate sequel trilogy Luke like some people did. But yeah.
Well, with sequel trilogy Luke, the stuff that happens with Kylo very much changes his perspective, and that hasn't happened yet. So like right now we're seeing Luke at kind of the peak of his Jedi Knights are the warriors, protectors of peace. So I'm going to go kill some dark troopers, power before he kind of sees what happens with Kylo, which really does shift pretty much everything. He's rebuilding the Jedi Order from nothing, thinking he's living up to these myths, and then that happens. And it's like, this is happening just how it did with Darth Vader. I've created another Darth Vader. Is this... Yeah.
It's just the fact that that's not cool. Like,
no, it's not as exciting as like hack and slash uber powerful Superman guy, but...
Yeah. But that's what you want to see is when you're a kid, you know, like when I'm a kid and I'm reading all these stories or like seeing Luke in video games, like this reminded me a lot of Luke from Jedi, was it Jedi Academy or Jedi Knight 2 when he goes on the ship and helps you out.
Yeah.
And like this was like right out of that. It's just something I never thought I'd see that on the screen, so it was pretty cool. Yeah. But I will say I definitely was getting emotional when he had to give Grogu away. That was
like, I'm definitely looking forward to later Jedi getting like another movie about Jedi, kind of doing the prequel flip around lightsaber fighting, and that's something that I really wish we got, like at least a decent lightsaber fight in the sequel trilogy, and I don't think we got even a half decent one. No. But I don't like I actually really liked the Kylo Luke one. I thought that was really well done. But it wasn't quite as high octane as some of... Like, Luke was doing that, projecting from across the galaxy, and totally owned that little runt.
Yeah. I like the Force one, episode 7, but that was less because of the fight itself and more because of the Rey taking the lightsaber and the burning homestead music and stuff like that. That was...
Yeah, like... For that one, even, it was like kind of injured guy who sort of knows what he's doing fights these two novices who are clearly novices. And like Kylo was never that well trained to begin with. Like he probably would have gotten his ass handed to him by almost anyone in the prequel trilogy, and definitely like Vader in the entire OT and maybe episode 6 Luke. Like Kylo was never trained very well. He was just angry hack 'em slash man. So there was not really anyone who could provide us with a decent lightsaber fight in the sequel trilogy. And we didn't get one. Other than Luke showing Kylo he kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Do you want to talk about the ending, giving away Grogu, or anything you want to say about that, or should we move on to the other point?
No, I don't think giving up Grogu was that important to the plot. I feel like we can just blow past that.
Well, I mean, like, what is there to say? Like, it's another bittersweet moment where it's like he's doing his mission, but it's it's not what you want to do as a dad.
That's why I wanted to let you talk about it, because you're the resident father here. I have like a case of Coke that I'm very attached to, but that's about it.
Gonna be me dropping Gus off his first day of preschool.
That's got to be coming up soon.
I promise. He can start like preschool pretty soon. It's like twice a week for a few hours, and we'll be doing that. But yeah. I do like. I thought the inclusion of R2D2 was really smart because it's like R2D2 just kind of. He's just it's R2D2, like he kind of breaks the levity a bit, I think. And like everything's gonna be okay if R2's there.
Yeah, like there's that scene in the original trilogy where Vader is like fighting Luke, and then he sees R2's like R2, hug and hand. I may be thinking of a different thing, but
yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I really like that scene. I was really that was the thing that I was most worried about, is that this was clearly Luke's here, so Grogu's probably leaving, and is this going to be all about Luke? But it turned out like it still focused, even with Luke there, on Grogu and Din saying goodbye, having that moment. And I thought that moment was really important, which is why I put that still in my review twice.
Okay.
Not because I didn't have enough images, not because I spent an hour trying to figure out how to record off Disney Plus again, but because it was an important moment that I very much enjoyed.
I will say R2D2, he was underused in the sequel trilogy as well. So
yeah, he was.
I'm glad to see him and Luke just chilling around the galaxy, just doing shit. Like R2, he told R2 not to leave his ship, but he went anyway.
Yeah, I think that's in every book, every movie. Just I wish if it wouldn't have undercut the moment, like the reveal. I feel like the special editions of The Mandalorian need a scene inserted there that they already have recorded of like R2 stay with the ship.
R2 just bouncing his ass out. Luke having to force lift him back in. This isn't easy, you know. All right, let's talk about the mid credit. I will say, kind of bummed not to have concept art. I get what they're going for. Kind of bummed. Let's talk about the mid credit sequence. The return to Jabba's foul palace, and the tease of something new. And of course, a very, very, very fat Bib Fortuna.
That's how Hutts are born.
He's been living the easy life a bit too much.
Yeah.
Got his long nails as well, kind of.
Does this make Bib Fortuna the Talon card of new canon?
Kind of, yeah.
Picking up the pieces of Jabba's empire and his meals, apparently.
One thing I appreciated is that that red-haired lady who talks to Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi, you can see her here. You know, the one with like the crazy like Billy Idol hair?
Mara Jade?
Maybe. No, it's like pink more than red, but yeah,
okay.
she was in the background. I love Jabba's palace. I think it's like the coolest place ever, especially with like all the weird aliens and stuff. So
okay,
yeah. I mean, I don't love it for like the for any of the people imprisoned there or anything like that. I love it as a setting.
I've never heard this take before. I'm not saying you're wrong for having it. It's just it's not something I've ever heard anyone say before.
It's because I just love Tatooine, and it's because of the Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina and Tales of Jabba's Palace book. Like I just love those places now.
Oh, that's fair. Look, I'm not judging you for this take. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just not one I've heard before, and it's bringing me joy to hear how much joy Jabba's Palace brings you.
I'm probably one of the few people who's like, fuck yeah, more Tatooine. But yeah, I'm excited for more Tatooine. Especially if we run into what's his name hiding out there. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Cobb Vanth, which I'm sure he'll reappear. But yeah, I'm all for Boba Fett, starting a criminal empire or whatever he's doing. That sounds awesome.
So there may actually be some people who watched the episode but missed that because they just tune out as soon as the credits happen. So we did get an announcement with Big Fortuna here Fortuna. Of the Book of Boba, or is the Book of Fett? I think I just said Boba because it alliterates. I think it's the Book of Fett.
It's actually the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay, that's too long. They should have workshopped that a little bit more. But yeah, so we get the announcement for the Book of Boba Fett, and the question that seems to be thus far unanswered is whether that is going to be its own thing, whether that is going to be the next set of Mandalorian episodes, and whether therefore that would then make it the end of Din and Grogu and the start of Boba Fett,
or at least the suspension of Din and Grogu. Yeah.
Like the direction I'm leaning right now is that it's probably a few episodes of this kind of Book of Boba Fett mini series, and then we get back to Din's journey, maybe with like 2 years later or 1 year later or later that afternoon, and then they're back in the Arkatan's bridge, and Bo-Katan's like, hey, you want to give me that sword?
Yeah. Okay, sweet.
But what are your thoughts on that?
For one, I gotta say, when I saw that, I was so ready for them to say streaming now. No, for real. I thought they were going to lead right into that show, just because it blows my mind that they couldn't get something ready this year for after The Mandalorian. Like, they're gonna lose so many subscribers until the next Star Wars show comes up. So I've been waiting this whole time. Like, I was waiting for them to say, okay, this show's ready. Like, I thought the Bad Batch might be ready early or like something, but no, they didn't. And I found that really surprising. But I have went back and forth on it. There's evidence, I think, suggesting that this could be the next part of the Mandalorian as a show, and and I think the book bit there where the Mandalorian's been based on chapters, I think that's probably the best argument. And the fact that it releases the same month. The only thing I am a bit hesitant to go with that though, because we've seen so many cast members talk about season 3 of The Mandalorian.
And we've had like reports of production on The Mandalorian that were alongside the reports of this idea of like a Boba Fett show that kind of has been around for a while as a rumored thing. But
yeah, we've seen Moff Gideon's actor talk about it recently. One of the stunt actor for The Mandalorian said he's in the next episode of the next season. So my theory right now is, for one, I will say too, I'm pretty sure they specifically said the start date for season
December?
3 of The Mandalorian. But they said specifically it's December 25th is when season 3 premieres.
Thanks.
So my theory is, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this in chat and people listening to the podcast. I think that maybe the Book of Fett could be a limited series leading up to the second season or the third season.
Where's the idea that the Book of Boba Fett comes out in December? Was that a card in the episode, or is that just something I've read?
Yeah, it says December 21.
Okay.
December 2021 in the episode.
Okay.
There's been some, like, I've been looking on Star Wars leaks, and there have been like some people saying with reports that there's separate things, like
there's a lot of people saying like, oh well, it's definitely this because of leaks. Like, I do not trust leaks until we have official confirmation, pretty much ever. So it does seem like a lot of the reports have been they are separate things. I'm hoping that's the case.
Yes.
I'm not going to be convinced on that until
you're on the side. You definitely think it's the same thing, or you definitely think the Book of Boba Fett will be part 3.
I think it'll be part of The Mandalorian. I don't know if it'll be part of if it'll be like the entirety of season 3, and then later we'll go back to Din and Boba or Din and Grogu. I hope that it's just like 3-episode miniseries or something, and then we get back to Din's story. I really don't know necessarily what to think, but I feel like the fact that it is called The Book of Boba Fett and the chapter titles are what they are, I feel like if you're coming up with a Boba Fett show independent of anything else, when we have show titles like Rangers of the New Republic, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Acolyte, The Book of Boba Fett doesn't really fit that, and is not what you'd think of when you're trying to think of like if I'm naming a show for Boba Fett, I'm not going with that. So
yeah, I will say I wouldn't have been excited at all about the possibility of this either way before the season, but I really, really like Fennec Shand, and I think her and Boba have an interesting relationship. So I think that it could be, even if it is season 3, I think it will be disappointing not to continue Din Djarin's story, at least right now, but I do still think it has the potential to be really good. Especially something like a Boba Fett story that will be a lot smaller scale. Like, that won't be, like, that'll probably be him trying to reestablish his crime empire.
Yeah.
Or whatever else.
With Fennec and Dengar.
Yeah. Because there have also been rumors that they would kind of, it could also be because there have been a couple of rumors about how Boba Fett would show up. The first was, I think, a movie with all these characters in it, like Dengar and Boba Fett would all be in it. And then there was the rumor that it would be a mini series. So who knows? It could be. We don't know. Hard to say. Well, I'm sure we'll know sooner rather than later, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping like a
Monday,
couple days we'll get an announcement.
Yeah, I think probably Monday. Who do you think we're getting for the character poster? Are we getting Luke or are we getting Moff Gideon?
For this episode?
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing Luke, right? Didn't they already do Gideon this?
Yeah, but I think they've done a couple of repeats now. I think Fennec Shand has had a couple.
Like, I could see if they hadn't done Gideon to do Gideon, but I feel like if you have Luke in the episode, you kind of gotta do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will also say, I don't often get to go into Star Wars stuff unspoiled, and I did for this episode, and I'm very appreciative of that. Like last episode, the one where Boba Fett showed up, I had a couple people spoil it for me, including Charlie messaged it to me.
Yeah.
I
had a few Discord messages this morning, and I stupidly went and started reading my messages, and had a few that almost spoiled stuff for me, but they were largely vague and didn't really give anything away. So what just happened once, I was like, okay, I need to watch this episode. But I was on my phone waiting for Dana to leave so I could start watching the episode.
I always have the movie spoiled for me, and it's no one else's fault but my own. I don't have the, especially where like the Rise of Skywalker leaked like 6 months in advance. I don't have the mental strength to not go on Star Wars leaks like every day. So
I was
just gonna say if it gets leaked, I'll if it gets leaked, I usually read it.
Yeah, like I wasn't able to go see, I think, The Last Jedi for a while.
Oh, really?
And same with The Force Awakens. I actually wasn't able to see anything except for The Rise of Skywalker in theaters. I didn't see Solo until it started going to the cheaper theaters later. I saw Rogue One and I saw Rise of Skywalker in theaters initial run. And I think that's true of every Star Wars movie. I don't know that. Maybe Revenge of the Sith I saw in theaters. I don't remember, honestly.
You can't spoil anything in Revenge of the Sith anyway.
Yeah,
that's
but
one movie you know exactly what's gonna happen.
Within like a couple days, I got spoiled in The Last Jedi, with someone putting their Steam name as, and spoiler alert, guys. Kylo kills Snoke.
Oh, I remember that.
Luke Skywalker dies. Yeah, and
there was like one sentence that came out that spoiled as much of that movie as possible, and they like had it down to like a math.
Yeah, and the guy that put his Steam name like that is like, I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, why do you care about that SJW garbage anyways? A real fan wouldn't want. It's like, don't tell me how I'm supposed to enjoy things. Thank you for making that choice for me that I wouldn't enjoy this and spoiling it for me. It's like, well, if spoilers bother you, then the story should stand on its own. Like, I still don't want to know. This is why you're now deleted.
That's why, like, sometimes it's nice when it's a movie that can't be spoiled. Like, how do you spoil Solo? Like, it's the Darth Maul scene. That's it.
Yeah.
Or it's like Rogue One. They do be stealing the Death Star plans.
Well, like, I wasn't doing active. Like, I was making the mods, but I wasn't doing any kind of like coverage of Star Wars stuff until starting Datapad. Like, I was doing Star Wars content on gaming stuff on,
but not like
a gaming channel. But like, I was not doing lore videos. It wasn't important that I stay up to date on anything, and I had like no money, so paying movie ticket prices was like, no way that's happening. So it just wasn't worth it to go see the movies. But then
fair enough.
like, someone gifted me. I was talking. The only reason I was able to see Rogue One is that I was talking at the time to another guy I used to make videos with, Bane, and he's like, "I'm sending you the money right now. You're going to see that movie." Like, okay, thank you.
Say no.
But yeah, it just wasn't worth it. So I was in dangerous spoiler territory.
I was really poor when Rogue One came out as well. I remember I was writing. I was really poor, even though I was like working as my articling job and making resumes. It's because my rent was fucking $2,500 a month. But I remember one day I was just like the lowest of the lows. Kelsey had moved back home to Halifax, and I was coming in the next couple of months. And we just didn't have that much in disposable income, and I didn't want to spend that much anyway because you're trying to save up for a house. And the guy who I was writing resumes with, we made a website and stuff, and he was like, "Can I buy you a pizza?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can do that." He's like, "What would you like?" He's like, "Would you like the Pizza Hut boxed meal?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like that a lot."
Yeah. All right, we have Beerio Kart scheduled in 8 minutes, so should we start rolling down, wrapping up?
Yeah, and I think we should just leave all the emails, and we'll do the email episode we're talking about. But guys, don't I'm still reading them when they come in. Did you see someone signed our? Actually, I'm not. I'll talk about that after stream. I don't want to give people negative attention, but yeah. That's how I'm gonna abruptly end my thoughts on the podcast. Anything you want to?
Yeah, so we are going to be doing an episode that is just answering the emails we've missed and answering the questions we've missed. Whether we end up streaming that live or recording it beforehand, it'd be nice if we could do that next week. If you can't, then we can figure something out. But
we'll figure something out.
That'll probably be the last episode of the year. So it'll probably be sometime before New Year's that ends up happening. Whether we're able to do it before Christmas or not, I'd assume we'd be able to do that. And then we'll be with the new year. We'll be back to reading some kids books. Kids books first. We're going to be doing more Jedi Young Jedi Knights.
Young Jedi Knights, yeah.
How did I forget that name when they use the term fucking 36,000 times per book?
What are we, some kind of Young Jedi Knights? What's this book called again?
I was foiled by those young Jedi Knights.
Yeah.
Adolescent Jedi trainees. Didn't test as well.
I'm gonna cut Corey off and say good night, everybody.
Bye.